I know, and she took half.
That's why they're there.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. Okay. We'll get started. Agenda item number 1, roll call and disclosure of conflict.
Stuart Ward,
Present, and I do need to recuse myself from agenda item number 4 and agenda item number 6.
Edward Orch,
Here, nothing to disclose.
Chad Selenite.
Present, no conflict.
Okay. Agenda item number 2, agenda for clarification.
Paul Jensen, Planning Director, Bannock County. Council's pleasure to be with you this evening. By way of announcement, we will add agenda item C under preliminary business. Once the new Planning and Development Council members are sworn in, you will need to vote for a new vice chair.
Okay.
Other than that, no other changes to the agenda.
Okay. Do you have a motion to accept the agenda?
I have a motion to accept the agenda plus the addition.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, swearing in of new members. Turn the time over to you then.
All right. Mr. Chair, I'm excited to be here tonight. Commissioner Jeff Huff, and I jokingly said the other day that I got the short straw to be here tonight, but I'm actually really excited to be here. We have 2 new council members to swear in and also re-swear Ed back in because he thought he was going to get away and we kept him back. So if I can have Crystal come on up and if I can have Molly come on up, great. And we'll just have you come right up here up front.
Okay.
And Ed, we'll do all of you at the same time. Come on up. I'm all about shortening the meetings wherever we can, so be efficient. That's the one time in government you can be efficient, right? All right, if you will raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ed Ulrich.
It wasn't a trick question. Thank you. Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the laws of this state,
and the laws of the state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
Planning and Development Council Member
Planning and Development Council
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Very good. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard. I'll need you to sign this and they turn these into you for the record. Okay? So let's get for you, Ed. Molly. And now you can take your chairs. Again, just from the commission, we were talking about this earlier today. We are so excited for this new board. We have the full county represented. All areas of the county are represented, which hasn't happened in how long, Hal? Forever? Yeah.
Not since we've been here.
Yeah, so many, many years. We have great diversity. We have great things of thought. So from a commission standpoint, we are very excited to have everybody here and also want to extend our gratitude for your service. We understand the amount of time you guys put in and all the stuff that goes with that. The hate and discontent, the love, the frustration. And so, again, just want to say thank you, welcome the new board members, and I will excuse myself after that because I'm not supposed to be here. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Martin, will you redo roll call now that we have 2 new?
Okay.
Let's do it all over again.
Stuart Ward,
Present, I need to recuse myself from agenda number 4 and agenda number 6.
Edward Orge,
Here and nothing to disclose.
Chad Salomon,
Present, no conflicts.
Molly Dimick,
Here and no conflicts.
Crystal Mattson.
Here, no idea.
That was on that.
Okay. Agenda item 2C, voting on a new vice chair.
Always. Always.
We have,
Is that for a motion time?
It's just kind of, we discuss it.
Yeah, I wanted to file a motion that Edward would continue his, current service until the first of the year
As vice chair.
as vice chair.
do you oppose that?
No, no problem. You're out.
Okay, good. I appreciate that.
Second.
Comment, council, in light of the fact that there's 3 of you that are new, we would recommend from our standpoint that Ed continue until the end of the year. That way, all of you will have the opportunity to have experience, understand how it works, and then when the first of the year comes and you vote for a new chair and vice chair, it would make more sense where you have some background on what actually occurs.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 3, approval of minutes. We have the March 14th, 2024 minutes, the March 20th, 2024 minutes, and the April 17th, 2024 minutes.
I didn't see anything in the March 14th that stood out to me that would need to be changed or fixed. I was absent on the second one,
On the 20th.
on the 20th, and then on the third one in April. I did not see anything that stood out to me.
Okay.
It's kind of difficult because you and I were the only ones in all of those.
Right. I didn't see anything either in any of those that really stood out, so.
So if you're okay with it, I'm gonna motion that we approve the minutes as noted,
As presented,
as presented, and I don't know what's another point.
all 3 of them?
Yeah, yeah, all 3 of them.
Do we need to do them separately?
We have
I
to?
think you can do them as
I think we've done them all,
together.
If
yeah.
there's no issues? Okay.
So I just need a second from one or the other. From you guys.
I'll second it. I reviewed them, but I wasn't present at the time there, but, I'm familiar with a couple of them, but I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Motion passes. Okay, we'll proceed to the public hearing. We've got 2 items of, is it just 2? Yeah, 2 public hearing items. First one is a variance. I'll read this and then I'll turn the time over to you, Ed. So, we'll get the public hearing started. This is a scheduled public meeting of the Bannock County Planning Development Council. Planning Council serves in both a decision-making capacity and an advisory capacity to the Board of County Commissioners. Decisions made by the Planning Council may be appealed to the County Commissioners within 10 days of the decision by the Planning Council. Please call the Office of Planning and Development Services prior to the 10-day deadline for detailed instructions for filing an appeal. The hearing procedures are as follows. A presentation is made by the applicant with a time limit of 6 minutes. An explanation of the subject of the hearing is presented by staff with no time limit. Testimony is given by the audience in favor of the proposal, then neutral to the proposal, and then against the proposal. Questioning of the participants and rebuttals are entertained by the Planning and Development Council. Time limit is 3 minutes for testimony. Then the applicant may rebut the arguments offered by the opposition. Then Planning and Development Council will discuss the hearing subject. They may direct questions to the staff, the applicant, or the audience during this stage of the hearing process. The hearing is then closed to oral testimony from the applicant and the audience, and the hearing process is concluded. The council accepts oral testimony and may accept limited written testimony from those in attendance, but only if the parties have filled out the testimony sign-in sheet. If you have submitted written testimony as part of the packet, you cannot also give an oral testimony unless it is to read the written testimony into the record. In order to keep a clear audio recording of this hearing, when testifying, a person must come to the podium, state his or her full name and address. Comments will not be accepted from the audience seats, and discriminatory testimony shall not be permitted. There shall be no booing, hissing, or cheering. In addition, if you're here tonight and you're angry, that's okay, but please don't take your anger out on the council members. They are charged by law to keep a clear record of the proceedings, consider the factual testimony, and uphold county and state rules and regulations. Thank you for your courtesy as we move through this process. Is there anyone who does not understand what I just read? Everybody's good. Okay. If the sign-in sheets are here at the podium too, if you need one. And at that, I'll turn it over to you for agenda item number 4.
Perfect. So agenda item number 4, Brady Smith, is requesting variance on lot size from 1 acre to a .61. The affected property is labeled parcel number RPR 3803038109 and is currently addressed at 13855 North Yellowstone, Chubbuck, Idaho 83202. You got 6 minutes, Brady, if you need it.
Appreciate your time, Commissioners. My name is Brady Smith with Alliant, 161 Jefferson Avenue, representing the applicant on this project. Because there's a couple of new people, I know a couple of commissioners are familiar with kind of the previous meetings, but since this is kind of a derivative of the concept application that we submitted last time, I just want to give you guys kind of the background of why we're kind of at this point. So when we initially divided this parcel in the concept stages, very first off, we thought there potentially could be an access that came through the development up through that little neck that you see there on the TV. And it's already got an existing house on it, some outbuildings and so forth. And so we knew that if we were to put an access through there, there would have to be some buildings demolished and things of that nature. As things progressed, we decided to just try to eliminate that lot from the remainder of the proposed lots because it's already kind of serving its purpose for the use that it's at right now. So with that, and by the time we put the lots that we were proposing as well as the open space in there, the remaining acreage was .61. Now that also brings up a couple of things that I think were in the report, not necessarily as a condition, but with regards to setbacks. So as you can kind of see on that map behind you, there's I'm guessing it's an out shop or some sort of shed, but it's really close to the north-south line that's there. I think we have about 10.8 feet on the plat. But as we put that new line through there, that creates a new line which a setback would be taken from. And from that new line, we're only 10 feet, whereas the ordinance requires 20. So as part of this request, we're also asking that you consider the nature of the situation as well with regards to setbacks too, even though I know that our main focus with this variance is to, reduce the size, but there's also a secondary element there with the setbacks that is not within the current ordinance now. What I would like you guys to consider is just the use that we're intending it to be. So the 6.1 covers everything that's there. There was a comment about the 35% of the buildings needed to be at least 35% or less. I did some calculations before I came here,
And the house is 1,339 square feet, the shed is 275 square feet, and the outbuildings, shop, combo, whatever that is 2,742. If you add those all together, it's 4,356 of like 26,000 square feet, so it's about 17% if I round up. So we should be compliant that way. So really what we're asking for is that it just made sense to make that connection for numerous reasons. One of them being that we were trying to accommodate the open space, which in the variance is not required outright, but because we're trying to do smaller lot sizes than 5 acres, we have to do open space. So that's kind of the trade-off. And so in order to do that, we were kind of left with this outline piece, but functionality wise, it's on its own septic system, it's on its own well, there's not going to be anything that's needed to be done there. I really don't feel, as far as the setbacks are concerned, that the new line that we're creating is any different than what's currently there outright. And so I would just ask for your consideration on that as well. With regards to the conditions that are listed here, don't necessarily have any concerns with those, but I did want to clarify the square footages so you guys could know what those were. If it needs to be proved further, I can get you a map with dimensions, but I did want you to know I did take the square footage and try to calculate that to make sure we were underneath the 35% we are. So anyway, that's kind of the goal there. It doesn't really serve our project, it doesn't serve really anything for us, but it is kind of what came with the master parcel. So we're just trying to split that out, and hopefully you can see the reasoning behind that and what we're asking for. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
We might have to come back up. Do you guys have any questions for now, or you want to hear the
Maybe
staff
coming
report?
back up, I'd have a question for you would be, so with the setback variance, it's not in this action item, would that have to be a separate variance that we need to ask for?
I think it's something we can, no, it has to be
It would
separate.
have to be a separate variance.
So we can't,
The
we
only
don't,
thing you can deliberate on is how it was noticed
Okay.
with the journal and to neighbors.
Okay. So we'll address that. I had some questions regarding that too, once the staff report is done. So we might have to come back up.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, staff.
Annie Hughes, Bannock County Zoning Planner. You've had the staff report for a week now. I would like to make note that this lot size variance has been submitted due to a condition of approval for Dallas subdivision concept plan. Do you have any questions?
I do have a couple questions. This is in the City of Chubbuck impact area. Is this going to cause more problems with that, or is this something that's gonna fit well with a lot of the stuff that's already going on in Chubbuck? So,
Paul Jensen, Planning Director. I don't anticipate that has any bearing or impact upon your action tonight.
okay, and then the other one would be the variance that has to come back. We don't need to talk about the variance at all then, right?
No.
Okay, good, because I do have some questions about that, but I'll table those until we hear this another time. Questions?
no other question, I don't have any questions, but Edward, I don't know if were you here when this came through on the concept?
I think I was on this one because I recognize it.
Yeah, I just with your concerns, I know the road and bridge was good with having access to that lot if the variance was granted. Just access to that lot, which would be lot 8 in here, if I remember right.
Yep.
And not a throughway for the other lots that were proposed, so just for
Yeah, well-
clarification.
Yeah, and I think that makes it a little easier to do this now that it's what it is. Yeah, I don't have another question. I think I'm
Same.
Molly, did you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Alright. So for you new folks, this is kinda, what we do is obviously the presentation, the county gives their statement, and then we can deliberate amongst ourselves, so if there's any concerns, questions, whatever, we can talk about it. Do we have, alright, I'll move on to Public comment? Was there any public comment? Anybody sign up for any comment on this one? Okay, there was reference in here of a written letter coming from Southeast Idaho Public Health. Did we hear anything back on that when we put the agenda together? You typically send a letter to them, correct?
Yes, we do. And the only agency comment we had was the Department of Environmental Quality, and it was just their general recommendations,
The
just their
general
general
letter.
form letter.
Okay, and so, I guess Brady, if we'll have to come back up, are you okay with that requirement, that we get that letter prior to moving forward?
I think it's noted as a final plat.
Yeah, at the
On the
final
final
plat,
plat, not
yeah.
this
By
stage.
the
this-
final plat?
Yeah,
Gives you some
we'll
time.
definitely do that, and I just got some information from the owner. With regards to that building, they're okay to even tear it down if that's what it takes, because it's just an old lean-to building. So if as part of this development, if it even needs to be, you know, removed altogether or cut back enough to where it meets the setbacks, they're open to do that. So that might solve everything on that part, because
Well, yeah,
the building would then go away, which would reduce the 35% even more, or the 17 that we have. So just so you're aware, they're completely fine with that being a part of this project if it needs to be, so for your purposes.
Brady and council, by way of information, the health department would request a letter from us. If you act on this and grant that approval, then we would send a letter to the health department stating that we recognize the minimum
Yeah.
lot size of 6/10 of an acre, which they would then grant what needed to be done with the health department.
That's right.
For the plot, so that
And
would
then-
be taken care of based upon your action
and then the
tonight.
health department would dictate to them whether it needs to come down or it can stay up.
And a letter that would come from us. No, the health department could actually, you know, grant leaving it where it is as long as you take action and I write the letter to them stating that it is acceptable to planning and development standards.
Yeah, thank you, Hal, because I was actually wondering that myself, if, I figured there had to be kind of a trigger effect from you
That
guys.
letter would then go so that you could take that
To
and have it
them.
as part of the plat.
Okay,
This action tonight releases me to write that letter.
okay.
Okay. So just for the rest of the council, when we're taking an existing piece of property such as this and we're taking the back half of an old agricultural piece of land and we try to utilize the land for housing, there is things that pop up that don't always fit, right?
Square peg round rules.
Yep.
I do have an item. How many bedrooms are in the existing home?
2.
Okay.
Enough said.
All right.
Typically, by way, what we see on a minimum 1 acre lot is a 4 or a 5 bedroom home. This would meet the standards for septic tank drain field for a 2 bedroom home by the health department. And they could actually place a restriction that the house could not be expanded. It would have to stay as it is in perpetuity until action was taken to either remove it or replace it, but the replacement would still only be a 2 bedroom home.
Okay.
With it being an existing building, it has an existing well, existing septic, you know, I don't have any problems with that, you know.
Okay. Good. All right, I'm gonna start moving through these findings then. So we're gonna go through and these statements are kind
Real
of.
quickly, was there any clarification?
Did you have it? No, I didn't have it.
Everything,
Sorry.
okay, good. No,
Okay.
thanks.
Unless you wanna sit there and look at us while we go through these.
Well, if it'll help you approve it, I'll do whatever you want.
All right, all right, some of these get tricky, so I'll have to have you guys help me wordsmith these, but the applicant has shown that there is not a reasonable alternative based on the existing lot lines, the open space requirements,
That's what I was gonna say, to meet the open space requirements.
and the, I'm trying to think here, and the design of the subdivision.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep it
Do you want me to
simple.
read it back?
Yeah, if you want to.
This is based on the existing lot lines, the open space requirements, and the design of the subdivision.
Okay. Number 2, the variance is not in conflict with public interest based on lack of opposition from neighbors.
An existing
Yep.
structure with its own utilities already,
Yeah.
so.
And yeah, you can add that, and based on existing structure with current utilities.
Okay, this is based on lack of opposition of neighbors as well as it's an existing structure with current utilities.
Okay. Second one is the variance will not adversely affect adjacent properties. It is an existing property that is already suited for the area,
Existing structure.
existing structures. Yep. We're not altering anything that's not already there.
You might state that there's been no public notice from the adjacent neighbors that the existing structure is adverse to their way of life.
Okay. So how do we shorten that up a little bit? We have no opposition
From adjacent neighbors.
from adjacent neighbors.
Makes sense.
Alright. So this is the question I always love. If the variance is not granted, the applicant will suffer undue hardship caused by the physical characteristics of the site. If it's not granted, it would change the open space and have to reduce subdivision by 1 lot. I'm not gonna go into what an undue hardship is, because we've talked about that in the past. Significant change to the subdivision, how about that? Would require a significant change to the subdivision.
If this variance is not granted, it would require the applicant to change open space and would require significant change to the subdivision.
Okay. And then, do we want to leave condition number 1 on there?
I wanted to put that on there, you know, it's-
Even though he spelled it out, do we wanna just have that documented on there?
yeah, I think just to have it on
Okay.
there, and we know it's an existing, the health department, I don't think is gonna have a problem with it, but just, it's there, we acknowledged it, so,
So both conditions 1 and 2, we'll just leave them there,
yeah.
and then you can document that with the county on both of those, on the square footage.
Does that make sense, Brady?
Okay. Alright, so. Chad, would you like to coach Molly through a motion, or do a motion and show her how that works?
This is kind of just an example, you can read it as permitted. We're going to request conditions, the 2 questions that we have. And we just keep them.
Should we do it?
Yep, go ahead.
So on the record and discussion this evening, I move to approve the request by Brady Smith requesting a variance in lot size from the minimum of 1 acre to 0.61 acre as described in the application materials as supplemented with additional information attached in the staff report according to testimony received, and to adopt the proposed findings in order for signature by the chair or vice chair. And with the following conditions of approval, I just say
Yep.
as written
Yeah.
in the
Yep.
staff report.
Yep.
If you'd like to read them, you can.
Now, approval with the following conditions. Written approval of a lot size less than 1 acre from Southeast Idaho Public Health shall be submitted with the submittal of Dallas subdivision final plat. And number 2, applicant shall prove that the total area of structures on proposed lot 8 does not exceed 35% of the total lot per zoning ordinance 401C4D.
Alright, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Motion has been, we've got a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Edward Ulrich,
Yes.
Chad Salame,
Yes.
Molly Demick,
Yes.
Crystal Mattson.
We've got a 4-0 vote in approval. Now we will move on to agenda item number 5 and turn it back over to Stuart.
Okay. Agenda item number 5 is subdivision concept plan, Meat Creek Meadows subdivision. Jose Nava proposes an amendment to Meat Creek Meadows subdivision for the purpose of adjusting a lot line. The development proposes individual wells and septic systems. The subject property is located in lots 9 and 10, block 3 of Meat Creek Meadows. Properties are addressed as 2028 North Patton Drive, Pocatello, and 2066 North Patton Drive, Pocatello. Buildable lots will be between 1.7 and 3.75 acres in size. Okay, Jose? I'm gonna keep time for me.
Yeah.
I always get you guys the easy ones. Jose Nava, 1290 on West Drive. Mr. Hogg wants to adjust the boundary line on his property. For the purpose of building a shop. I do want to clarify that these lots have existing hookups to a community water system. And currently have septics and hookups to the community water system. A few steep slopes, but where they're gonna build a shop there, he's kind of has a little bit of a flat area. I don't know if you guys have this map on there too. I just uploaded it with the contours on it.
It's in there.
The one with contours?
I thought so.
Council, it is not in your packet because it was uploaded today.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I did get comments back from the Public Health Department, and they have no concerns over where that drain field is and septic for the adjoining property. It shouldn't affect where our new boundary line will go. What else is there? The shop, I outlined the shop on that map, and its setbacks from the new property line would be 20 feet. So it would meet the minimum setbacks for Bannock County and for the for the CCNRs, existing CCNRs. I believe no open space is required on this one. And minimum acreage is met by both parcels. Existing easements, public utility easements along Patton Drive, and a drainage easement along the northeast boundary there of Lot 2. And yeah, any questions?
No, this one makes it to where it makes sense what we're trying to do.
And you did say, I thought I saw, but from the health department, they were okay with the lot line being on the drain field.
Yes, I just got comments back from them today, actually. They did require some more information prior, but I did go out there and locate that drain field and then
sent them that map and gave comments back that they would have no issue with it.
And you said they're connected to city water or community water?
Connected to-
Oklahoma City, I think it was.
To a community water system.
Okay, so there's no issues with wells or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay.
And also there's no water or septic going into that shop, so it's just, pretty basic.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions myself.
Not for you. We might have to come back up, no.
So, sorry, Jose, I got one last question. Sorry. On one of the recommended conditions, it talks about a new subdivision name. Have you thought about one today, or? The staff report basically says you can't use Main Creek Meadows.
You can't use that plus amendment on it?
That's the way I understood it, and the way state code reads, I don't
Oh,
think you can.
I was confused on that because it had two other developments that were headed Mink Creek. So was it something with a third, or was it a suggestion, or?
Well, yeah, because the staff report says there's other subdivisions, Mink Creek Acres, Mink Creek Meadows, which is what this is, and then Mink Creek Mountain Estates. But Idaho code says that you can't use the same or similar words
Versus.
unless it's unless it's the same developer.
Gotcha.
Is the issue. So I just didn't know if you had come prepared with a new name tonight, or if we'll just leave that as a condition that we'll need a new one at preliminary.
Just have to be a condition there.
Okay, sounds good, thanks. Thank you. Okay, staff.
Elise Foster subdivision planner, just for clarity of the new council, whenever a lot is in a current subdivision based on Idaho code, it is required to go through the planning process over again based on our ordinance. So this will be its own subdivision, removing itself from the previous subdivision.
Let's see, hence rename it, yeah.
Yep, hence rename it, unless they can get written approval from the original developer. The lot line adjustment, they are not creating any additional lots, they're simply moving the line between the two lots over
For setbacks first.
for setbacks. They both have existing septics, they are both connected to private water lines that connect to the city of Pocatello's water. Does the council have any questions based on the staff report?
No, I don't have any.
No, but you bring up a good point. You said that if they create a new subdivision, they're removing themselves from the previous one. So, and maybe I'm playing devil's advocate for the owner, but by doing that, they're not held by the previous CCNRs anymore.
Unless they choose to continue with those CCNRs.
But that's their decision.
That's
not
something
us to-
between them.
Right, I'm just making
Okay.
sure that
I
that's,
think that's
the
up
way
to an
you-
attorney to decide.
just the way you said it got me thinking, and so. Okay. Okay, I don't have any questions for staff. Do you guys, sorry, before I move on, any questions for staff?
No questions.
Okay. We don't have anybody signed up for
Public comment?
public comment? Did you fill out a paper? Or will you?
I
for me,
will fill
please?
out a paper.
Are you for, neutral, or against?
Probably neutral.
Neutral? Okay.
I'll be happy to fill out the paper.
Before you sit down though, is there anybody here for? No? Okay. Just wanna make sure. We don't wanna go out of order. So, okay,
my
just your
name
name
is-
and address.
James Shaw, address is 2072 North Mink Creek Road, Pocatello, Idaho. I'm an adjacent property owner. I don't really have a problem with him altering the lot lines and building a shop. What I do have a problem with is the public hearing notice that I got. Public hearing notice, and I guess because it's now a new subdivision, states development proposes individual wells and septic systems. And that is in contradiction to the original agreement and recommendations of this body for that subdivision. No individual wells and individual septics are allowed, but I wouldn't like to see another septic system added to this particular property, as it will be very close to Mink Creek itself, and we have enough problems with water contamination as it is. I guess I'd like to know the size of the shop. Just I can't, the map I got is, even with a magnifier, it's pretty hard to decipher what's on this.
It looks like it's a 50 by 45.
Okay, so 50 by 45. And I guess my only other concern was that this shop doesn't turn into a living shop. We all know there are lots of shops in Island Park particularly where there are nice living quarters in them. And that's not the purpose of this, I presume, but I certainly wouldn't want to see that happen. I don't know if you have any other questions for me, or, you know, I guess this is either a clerical error or just, you know, I was sort of told that that's what this was, a clerical error, when I called Mr. Jensen.
And I believe it is based on what the applicant said and based on the staff report. The staff report says they're connected to city water, but they do have individual septics, so
Right.
so no wells will be or are proposed the way
Okay, well,
that
but
it
that's
was
not what the
presented.
notice I got said.
Understood.
And I didn't want to see two new
Understood.
facilities there, so I'll fill out your form.
Okay.
I think the applicant also said they had no plans, at least intent for water or septic in that shop. So it sounds like we've got to run a power
Well,
out there.
yeah, if they want to run it from their house, that's fine, you know, it's no
Yeah,
problem.
but
That's my only comment, I guess.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Anybody against? No, okay. Jose, do you wanna say anything else, address anything? No, you're good, okay. All right. Council, any discussion as I try to find the findings?
I'm glad that he's got a relationship with a neighbor that will facilitate this. I mean, I know there's a lot of hoops that go through it, but a lot of people, I mean, it's nice to have a neighbor that will allow you to make some kind of arrangement to do this, so anyways.
Yeah.
Where's the number on this that I'm supposed to put down?
Your agenda item number 5.
5, okay.
Yeah. Okay. You guys ready to work through findings then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. They're page 152 if you go through.
Yeah, I'm slowly getting through here.
Okay. Number 1, the proposed tentative plan is in conformance with Bannock County Comprehensive Plan and is in conformance with applicable provisions of this ordinance, other county ordinances, and Idaho code. I know, I'm getting there.
I'm
You're
already
waiting
where
for
you
a
are.
because, you're waiting for a because, I know you are. I gotta find my,
Did you write down what ordinance it is?
no, but I can tell you. .302 concept master plan review, that one? Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, 302 is our comprehensive. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's in conformance with ordinance, Bannock County Ordinance 302. And what's the zoning ordinance for that one? 320. With minimum lot sizes.
Well, it's just increasing the size of the one lot. So
Right, but
it's
it's
well
still-
within the lot size.
Yeah, it still meets the minimum lot size, yeah.
Yeah. And the bigger lot still within the lot size.
Yeah, it's just increasing the lot. So I think that's what we can say, the second part of that is it's only increasing, which keeps it in conformance with the ordinance and the county ordinances and Idaho code.
Yeah. Will you read that back to us? Please.
This plan is in conformance with subdivision ordinance section 302 as well as the zoning ordinance for lot size requirements. This plan is increasing one lot and the other lot will still meet lot size requirements with the decrease.
Perfect. Number 2, the proposed roads and bridges are designed and constructed according to section 402 of the subdivision ordinance. A design deviation was not requested and was not granted to equal or exceed these standards for its purpose. No additional roads or bridges are proposed, and the lots will access off an existing county road.
No impact on existing.
Yeah, no impact on it, no increased impact on additional or existing roads.
Existing roads.
No additional roads or bridges are proposed. The lots will access from an existing county road and there will be no increased impact on existing roads.
Perfect. Number 3, the proposed partitioning of land does not prohibit the extension of dedicated streets or roads.
I love that question. There's no change to existing streets or roads.
Yeah.
I know it's a required what we do to subdivision, so.
Okay, number 4, the proposed partitioning will not conflict with legally established easements or access within or adjacent to the proposed land partition.
Can we do the same as the last one?
Yep.
We are
I
not
think so,
making
yeah.
any changes.
And number 5, the blocks of lots are located and laid out to properly relate to adjoining or nearby lot or parcel lines, utilities, streets, or other existing or planned facilities.
Can we note that the proposed lot line is following the contours and drainage of the adjacent lot? It doesn't affect any of those other 4 things it's mentioning? That
Yeah.
sound right?
So the proposed lot line is following the contours and drainage of adjacent lots.
Yep, and not affecting the parcel lines, utilities, streets, or other existing planned facilities.
Okay. You good if we move on, Tristan? To number 6. The proposed property is physically suitable for the type and proposed density of the development and does conform to existing zone standards. We're not
Not changing.
we're not changing density, we're not increasing number of lots.
The parcel line is to conform to setback requirements.
And then new parcel
New
line
parcel line.
conforms with setback requirements, yeah. Okay, anything else to add?
It's ready for a motion.
Just a condition would be to have that renamed.
Yeah, there was a couple
There's
conditions.
3 conditions. Run not too far. Yep, there's 3 conditions right there. Yep.
You ready? I had a question. Do you want to consider the addition of any conditions based on public comment?
Oh, we can. What additional conditions are you thinking?
You mentioned no additional septic systems and no mother-in-law house within the shop.
No living
Just-
quarters?
Yeah. Just for discussion.
I think in doing that, though, they would have to come and see the planning and development again anyways.
Or the health department.
Or the-
in order to
and the
expand
Have
the
that
park.
approved.
Well,
Yeah.
the accessory dwelling, not necessarily, right?
The zoning ordinance based on their zone would allow a cottage dwelling, which is intended for mother-in-law, family, not rented out for gain. But that is the extent of growth that could occur in this zone for additional dwellings
Right.
based on current ordinance.
So with that, they don't necessarily have to come back to us
Gotcha.
to put living quarters in there.
Okay. So is that put in the condition, which would be the health department, because they already to the Pocatello City Water. And another septic would have to go through the health department.
Yeah, those are
Unless they
out of,
connect.
out of
Yeah,
the,
unless they connect.
yeah, out of the realm of what this committee
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do,
yeah.
but, so, I guess that would be the condition, if you wanna put a condition on there, it'd be that it would have to go through them.
Approval from.
Approval through health department in order to go forward,
Public
that's not
health.
something we can restrict.
When someone applies for a building permit and they are adding rooms, we do require that they provide their permit from Southeast Idaho Health, so we do require that documentation on a building permit. If the applicant's current septic system is large enough to hold the addition that they're proposing,
That's right.
then they just provide that documentation from Southeast Idaho Health as well.
Okay. Is that something you're strong?
No, it sounds like it might already be covered by those other items in place, so.
Okay.
So there is
Because I
right
just wanna
now,
make sure before we put a condition like that the applicant's okay with it.
no, I agree, but for our purposes, if they were to move forward with something like that in the future, it would have to go through a permitting process, and therefore, health department would have to be able to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to it.
Agreed. I think what the concern is from the public is that they don't want
Another septic
Another-
system, another well, and all that.
or living quarters in the shop
Council,
was mentioned.
item to remember is that, as stated by Elise Foster, a cottage dwelling isn't allowed use in this zone by our ordinance. That said, you cannot restrict that right
Okay.
from an applicant or a property owner. That's
Okay.
beyond your purview. And
Because it's already
your
allowed.
enumerated powers, you have to follow the ordinance.
That's right.
Okay?
And so
Okay.
future, whatever happens is out of our hands. All we can do is say, this property line, that's what we're talking about right now, is the
At
property
this-
line.
at this
And
time.
not the
Yep.
structure, what can happen in that structure.
Okay. Right.
Thanks.
Okay. Just wanna make sure it's open and everybody's on the same page.
That's right. So right now, there's the 3 conditions.
Correct.
And we wanna read those and discuss those, or we good to add those on to a motion?
I gotta find it again, read them again.
I can read them real quick. Number 1 is depict all current and proposed easements and right-of-way located within the subdivision on all subsequent plats, including measurements and instrument numbers when available. So that's when we see this at a final plat. Propose a subdivision name to the council, which we've discussed. It can't be Meat Creek Acres anymore. Provide written approval from Southeast Idaho Health Department for the lot line adjustment at the preliminary plat per note C in the original plat. So those are the three that are currently already on there, all related to that property line.
Yeah, I think we should put all three of those on there,
Okay,
that's what I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Move forward with the motion.
Yep.
Based on the record and discussion this evening, I move to approve the request for the Meat Creek Meadows Amendment Concept Plan as described in the application material, as supplemented with additional information attached in the staff report and according to testimony received, and to adopt the proposed findings and order for signature by the chair or vice chair.
With the following conditions.
With the following conditions. 1 through 3 is written to me.
In the staff report, you can if you'd like.
As written in the staff report, depicting all current and proposed easements and right-of-ways, including measurements, propose a new subdivision name, and provide written approval from the Southeast Idaho Health Department.
Well, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Stuart Ward,
Yes.
Edward Ulrich,
Yes.
Chad Selenite,
Yes,
Molly Demick,
Yes.
Crystal Knudsen.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion carries 5-0. Kinda had to say 5 in a long time. Okay. Perfect, thank you.
And thank you guys for coming.
Okay, that is the end of the public hearing items.
Yep.
I don't know if we actually,
Business items, we just move
we'll
on.
close the public hearing. How about that? Perfect. Okay, business items, agenda number 6, preliminary plat. That's you.
So for you guys, just so you know, on the business items, we don't have public comment. So it's more or less, we discuss this with our support from the county, and then we make our decisions on those. So, business item number 6 is a preliminary plat for Dallas subdivision. Again, Brady Smith, this is proposed 8-lot subdivision. This is the same one we just talked about. So, Brady, if you'd like to come up. Looks like the last one.
Yeah.
6 minutes there.
Thanks again, Commissioners. Brady Smith with Alliant, 161 Jefferson, Pocatello, Idaho 83201, representing the applicant on this preliminary plat. In looking through the staff report, I did have a couple of questions that I wanted to mention as part of this, but we tried really hard to accommodate all the conditions that came out of the concept review application. Obviously, there's a few more and a couple that I need to speak to, which was on our side of the error. It talks about sidewalks in conditions 6 and 7, and that showed up in our CC&Rs, and we will get that removed. We don't anticipate or want sidewalks in there. So that was something Elise caught and brought my attention to. And so we will, just for, as you guys discuss this, those two, 6 and 7, I think are related, and it's because we had it mentioned in some covenants that'll be taken out as we finalize those documents, so you guys are aware. As far as the other conditions go, I don't really see anything that we're in opposition from, but I did have a question on lot 6, removing that note, because that was actually Corey Krantz that provided that note to us, but I can see where it causes a little conflict because there's no way to put an easement across the open space. So could we just strike the portion that talks about it connecting to Dallas Lane? Because I think he wanted it to be pretty clear that it was only going to be accessed from the highway. And so the first part of it, I think it says lot 8 is restricted and receives Idaho Transportation Department access from US Highway 91. I think you could say lot 8 shall have access to lot 4, and that's it. I think that is what's causing maybe the problem, is that, and I don't see a need for it to ever really need access to Dallas Lane unless something were to change in the ordinance in years to come where that opens that back up. So that was just more of a question, but I think I just want to make sure you guys are aware that that was actually from ITD when I was trying to coordinate how they were going to give us some sort of approval to meet the standards of the comment that was given in concept. So But again, nothing new. We're okay with the comments provided, other than those 3 specific, questions with the conditions or clarifications to the conditions. And so would just ask for your approval on this pre-plat with those conditions, and hopefully we can strike a couple of them and rework the one about lot, or note 6. And that's pretty much all I have to add, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't have questions for you. I'm gonna have some for the staff after
I
the
don't have any
staff.
questions.
Molly, you good?
Yes.
Okay. Staff report.
Elise Foster, subdivision planner. You've had the staff report in there. It sounds like they're going to remove sidewalks from the CCNRs. My only comment based on note 6 that he had discussed is if the ownership of lot 8 and lot 4 are the same, they don't need to give themselves legal access, and they have proposed lot 4 to be a separate lot, so if they ever sold lot 4 separately, they're still giving lot 8 access to lot 4 with that note.
Okay.
So that's something to consider.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you is, do we need to build a condition that removes lot 6 and 7? The condition is removing the language about sidewalks. Do we need to have that as a condition? And then the second one is, do we need to have a condition with the note you were just talking about? Restricting that access to lot 8, or lot 4,
Lot
from
4.
lot 8.
I would not necessarily make a condition that restricts it,
Okay,
but just simply removes the second sentence from note 6.
Yes. By
Because
doing-
he can give himself access if he owns both lots.
And by doing so, that makes all assumptions moot
so
moving forward in the future.
deleting second sentence on note number 6
Correct.
as a condition. And then, so note 6, that's about Dallas Lane, right? And then the second and then this, so that would become the new condition number 6. And then condition number 7 is deleting all references to sidewalks. Does that sound right? That's what we want, right? If we're not gonna do sidewalks, we wanna take that completely out, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And then Road and Bridge just pointed out to me, note 10 references the approach shall be built to current county standards. Highway 91 is ITD, so that should be amended to state lot 8 shall be built to ITD standards. We had placed a condition at concept that they would build that approach to current standards.
ITD standards. Okay. Any questions?
I don't think so. I just reviewed some of the, because that Dallas Lane was a hot topic at the previous meeting. Sounds like they've addressed that though. I thought it was pretty straight up, so.
Okay. Molly, you got any questions? Okay. I guess Brady, if I could ask you, you okay with conditions 1 through 5 remaining there?
Let me just double check, I think so.
Yeah, if you wanna come back up and give us your name and address, just in case we forgot.
Okay. Trying to keep my pants up, I forgot my belt.
As required.
Let me see this.
As required. By.
Yeah, and just to clarify, 4 is still in, but we're just rewriting it a little to remove some of the note will stay, some of it will go. Is that correct? Yeah, as long as
Yes.
that's the case, then yes, we're in agreement. Sorry, Brady, Smith, Viant, 161 Jefferson Avenue, Hotel, Idaho 83201.
Yeah, so the only thing we'll do is we'll leave the conditions 1 through 5.
Okay,
And then on note 6, we will make as a condition to delete the second sentence.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, that works.
Number 7 will be deleting all references to the sidewalks. And number 8 would be, should be, number 8, lot 8 will be built
ITD.
as required by ITD standards.
Okay,
So I have,
Approach.
I have 7, and,
7,
yeah.
so 1 through 5.
So I have 1, final plat shall state stormwater shall be retained within individual lots.
Okay.
2 is the maintenance and operation plan recorded and referenced on plat that addresses long-term maintenance of Dallas Lane, Legend Lane, and signage. This must include who bears the cost of the upkeep. Such plan shall be reviewed and approved by staff before recording. Number 3, if irrigation is being proposed to each lot, it shall be included in the construction plans and the maintenance and operation plan. 4, remove the second sentence from note 6.
Okay.
5, plat shall state right-of-way swales shall not be filled. 6, remove reference to sidewalks from CC&Rs. 7, change note 10 to reference ITD instead of Bannock County Road and Bridge. Is that all of them?
Requirement from ITD. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I didn't realize that you've changed number 4 to just delete.
can I ask a clarification on the stormwater part?
Yeah.
So, for the road itself, Kyle, we can discharge that stormwater into the swells. It's just like normal, so that's why we don't want those filled, so that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify. Cause we're retaining our stormwater for our lots, but the right of way can be discharged into the swells, and that was our intention, so,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, when we get to those conditions, if we mess up number 4,
And I can move
then
them
you can help us, okay.
into the motion too.
Molly, any more questions? Chad?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right, so let's move through, all right, get back to findings. Yeah. If I can go flicking through it, I sometimes miss it. All right, so the preliminary plat is in conformance with Bannock County Planning and Development Council approved concept plan, all applicable provisions of the Bannock County subdivision ordinance and other ordinances and Idaho code. The plat meets the requirements in section 302 of the Bannock County ordinance subdivision plan.
I think it's 303.
Is it 303?
Correct.
Sorry, I know 303. Thank you.
Who did that? Very precise.
The street plan for the proposed subdivision will permit its development in accordance with the Bannock County subdivision ordinance. Again, that's 303. Again, it meets the requirements. Do I need to add to that one? I mean,
You might add and road and bridge standards.
yeah, road and bridge standards, okay, that's fine.
County
Just-
road and bridge.
Yeah, we just had that comment about the swell, so. These are all the same question practically. The street plan for the proposed subdivision will permit its development of adjoining land by providing access to the land by right of way dedicated to the county and the development to street and property boundaries. This subdivision will have a cul-de-sac and will not be accessing any other roads, adjacent roads. Does that sound right? Ready? Lot lines and roads do relate to land shapes in the existing development. Lot lines relate to existing properties. The land is relatively flat. And the roads fit the property terrain, I don't know what it is. It was probably an alfalfa field, right? I mean,
The new road parallels existing property lines.
okay,
adjacent property
yeah,
lines.
adjacent property lines, good, thanks, Hal.
ALLEL.
Property lines, is that what you said?
All right, and the conditions will be one,
Just to read those, please.
yeah, wanna read those?
Number one, final plat shall state stormwater shall be retained within individual lots. Two, maintenance and operation plan recorded and referenced on plat that addresses long-term maintenance of Dallas Lane, Legend Lane, and signage. This must include who bears the cost of upkeep. Such plan shall be reviewed and approved by staff before recording. Three, if irrigation is being proposed to each lot, it shall be included in the construction plans and the maintenance and operation plan. Four, remove the second sentence from note 6. 5, plat shall state right-of-way swales shall not be filled. 6, remove reference to sidewalks from CCNRs. And 7, change note 10 to reference ATV instead of Bannock County Road and Bridge.
Perfect. I need a motion.
I will do a motion. Based on the record and the discussion this evening, I move to approve the request for the preliminary plat of Dallas subdivision as described in the application materials as supplemented with additional information attached in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings and order for signature by the chair or vice chair with the following conditions. Can I say 1 through 7 with the staff report?
Yep, as I previously read.
Yep.
Perfect. All right.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a second. Do we do a roll call vote on this? Yeah, it's a business item, so roll call vote.
Edward Ulrich,
Yes.
Chad Selenite,
Yes.
Molly Dimick,
Yes.
Crystal Mattson.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brady.
Can I sneak away to the restroom?
Yeah, you wanna take a quick,
Yep.
like a 2 or 3 minute break?
Good idea.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it was like NFL.
Okay, good.
I remember Dallas. So.
Good? Okay. We're back. We got one more business item.
Prior to the expiration
Okay, the last business item, agenda number 7 is a conditional use permit extension request for RV storage. Tommy Kofed requests an extension on a conditional use permit for parcel number RPR 422-701-0801 in accordance with the zoning ordinance. And this, for you new guys, and gals, sorry. Conditional uses can be extended one time,
One time.
right? Yeah, one time. But they have to apply before the deadline. So they have to prove that they've applied before the deadline, and that's, and
I believe that's what he did. It was a couple weeks before, I think.
yeah, and the reasoning behind it, he's got an email here. He's still working with the city of Lava and their new attorney to get the easement agreement for the road, for the access. And then, he says he's still working with DEQ on their permit, so.
Yes, yeah, that's right, he said that.
Yeah. So. Unless staff, do you have anything to add to that?
Tristan Borquin, Assistant Director. The only thing I have to add is if you look in the request and background information, the expiration date is greater than a year from the approval. That is because there was an appeal, and so the approval date ended up not being the date council approved it, but the date the appeal was processed and finalized.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
that's why there's those couple of months extra on top of the 1-year approval from the original conditional use permit. Everything else is pretty straightforward.
Okay. Okay, so, any questions? No? Okay.
Pretty cut and dry.
We'll go through the really hard findings. Hardest, yeah. The proposal for extension was filed with the Planning and Development Council prior to the expiration date of the original conditional use permit approval.
Cause Tristan said so.
Yeah. Then was already answered that whole thing? It was.
Do we need to just say what day they,
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's give them the
And
date.
they, where's that?
Just state application by applicant for
August.
extension applied
Yeah.
prior to expiration, something along those lines.
The,
Was applied for on July 19th, 2023 with the expiration date of September 6th was the original, and the extension was submitted on August 23rd of 2024, which is prior to the September 6th date.
yeah,
Okay, so I just wrote the request was submitted August 23rd, 2024, and the expiration is September 6th, 2024.
perfect, like that, awesome.
And by way of clarification, an extension can be granted, one extension for 6 months only.
So,
Okay.
just for the sake of new people and then me, if the city of Lava drags their feet on this and it pushes it out beyond 6 months, does he have to come and reapply for the whole thing again?
We would have counsel, or conversation with Mr. Kofod and tell him what his options are, allowing him to move forward and placing the conditional use permit in effect within that 6 months.
Okay.
But even if that couldn't be resolved with the city of Lava, then
He could apply.
he would have to reapply after the 6 months though?
Correct. However, Chad, he may apply for a conditional use permit. You have to secure a permit prior to expiration. Doesn't mean that he has to have the full building permit. He could actually apply for an excavation and grading.
Okay, yeah, before the,
Okay.
yeah. I
So we
So
understand.
you've got some suggestions for
We have
him.
methodologies to help the applicant,
Yeah.
should that occur.
Yeah, gotcha, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Want a motion?
Ready for a motion?
I can do a motion for you, alright? Based on the record and discussion this evening, I move to approve the request by Tommy Kofod for the extension of the conditional use permit described in the application material and as submitted with additional information attached to the staff report in accordance with the testimony received, and to adopt the proposed findings in order for signature by the chair and the vice chair.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second it?
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Stuart Ward,
Yes.
Edward Ulrich.
Yes.
Chad Selenay,
Yes.
Molly Dimmick,
Yes.
Crystal Mattson.
Perfect. Passes 5-0. Okay, that's the end of our business items. Moving on to agenda item number 8, items of interest.
I'll ask Tristan to take care of this. She has some notes in her agenda.
Tristan Borkwin, Assistant Director. A couple of things for upcoming hearing items. So we have our regular meeting October 16th. We will have a transfer of development rights, a concept plan, preliminary plat, and then the public hearing for the comprehensive plan. And then we also have an item on November 6th, and it will be the gravel pit that was heard and denied last August out on Philbin.
So that's coming back.
They reapplied.
They've reapplied. That one we will hold in the commissioners' chambers so that we have court martials available.
Not at City of
Not
Chubbuck
as
this
City of
time.
Chubbuck. They have their regular public hearing that night as well, so the room wasn't available.
Is the November 6th the regular
It
scheduled
is a
meeting?
regular meeting. This year was the first year we did 2 in November and none in December.
Okay.
So, I'm just trying to think if this is a good question. Was there anything from the council from the last hearing that aided to that appeal? Or is there anything, pitfalls that we did right or wrong that we should be avoiding? Or is that a discussion we should have later?
No, I think everything was good. They
They just
Anytime you
exercise
get-
their right.
Yeah, every time you get a denial, they have to wait 1 year before you can reapply for the same or substantially the same request. So they waited their year. They've submitted additional stuff that was missing on the last one. And so they think they have a good shot to move forward and they're gonna try again.
So I wasn't here at the initial, but is that the one just out of Airmont?
No,
No.
No,
it's right here in Chubbuck,
Okay,
in town.
okay.
Well, not in town.
Council should also be aware that according to state statute, if there is a denial, council is required to let the applicant know what they would need to do to bring their application into compliance, of which we did not do
Last time,
last time.
we just denied it.
However, it was denied. State statute, I believe our ordinance also says that it is a year from the original application, not from the date of denial. So, that said, they have provided a lot more information, much more information, and come better prepared with a defensible position than they did on the first application. Better information, clearer information, and studies and scientific background that gives them a position. So, new council members, be aware that that was probably our most heated topic that we've had in a long, long time. We had upwards of 100 people in attendance
He
against.
shut it down the first time because it was so heated.
So anyway, that one's coming, just like winter.
So, do you think Commissioner's Chambers is big enough?
No.
Okay.
That it will be big enough to do what we need to do.
Okay. I mean, it's bigger than this, which was better
Yeah, it's honestly the best option we have with recording equipment
Okay.
to accommodate what we need, so,
So is that at the courthouse?
yes. And I think that's all we have for items of interest.
Okay. So 2 upcoming meetings. Okay, citizen comment? You're not gonna update us on the game or
I
anything?
think your two new ones, citizens are here.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, I think it's back to you, Tristan, for the work session then.
Okay, comprehensive plan. I printed off the most updated version of the comprehensive plan. It's almost exactly the same as what was emailed to you last week. We just had a couple of Idaho code references that got added into the appendices. And then we also have an updated map. If you want to grab one and pass it down. And then I also have them printed on 20 by 30s if you want to see them in a larger version than what we have.
New council members, you've not seen a future land use map before, so we currently have a zoning map. And we also have attached to the comprehensive plan, this map, which is a future land use map, which shows our projected and anticipated growth patterns of perhaps something that is currently zoned agricultural, but because of the growth of the adjacent to a city in the future, it may be rezoned as residential rural or residential suburban. And so that future land use map shows what our vision is for potential in the future based upon growth that we see. This is not the current zoning map. This is something that we would anticipate, of course, as said, for the future.
And this has changed from the initial, from the first, with the public input. This is a different map than what was,
Yes.
yes.
So this one right here is what's in our current
Mhm.
comprehensive plan. When we did our open houses in February, one of the biggest comments we had was all of this area down here having too much residential rural. And the residents in South County did not like all of that ag turning into residential rural. So you can see on the proposed how much smaller those areas are. One of the other big changes is in City of Lava or area surrounding Lava. There's a lot of recreational and not very much residential suburban or residential rural, so we shrunk the recreational and added a little bit of residential suburban near the city limits where growth is intended to grow.
Also adjacent to all of our old zones, the state statute says that zones should follow either natural land features or law lines. And we had countless parcels and acreages that just had a line drawn right through the middle of them. So we've paid close attention to either shrink or expand by following property lines adjacent to rights of ways, major roadways, etc., and try to make sense so that of these particular parcels, so that when someone comes to us and they want to do a rezone and they want to change, a 40-acre parcel from agricultural, we don't have a third of it that is said, oh, this third is this zone and this 2/3 is this zone. We've tried to clarify all of those and make it cleaner when people come to us for application.
As much as possible, with lots of variances, yeah.
I would say, Chad, that we're probably 90 to 95% cleaned up from all of the garbage that was in the last map.
The last one that got sent down,
Yeah.
yeah, you bet.
Okay?
Any
Also-
other questions on maps? So that I can put these down.
Also,
No,
new
you guys
council
stay.
members, we started in 2018 before I started. They started a comprehensive plan. It was not adopted until, I believe, what was it? Tristan, were we adopted in 20 or 21?
21.
So the comprehensive plan that preceded this was started in 18. It wasn't adopted until 21 because of the different changes that occurred in the department, different department heads, different staff members, etc. And it languished. There were a lot of things and decisions that were made without critical oversight. As we, with new team over the last 5 years, looked at the document and studied it, we went to the commission and said, we're not happy and these are the reasons why. We asked them permission to go in and do an update. So we've held public meetings in all of the small communities, as well as Chubbuck and Pocatello. We've received some public input, and then we have condensed and clarified language that we think is more appropriate with the vision of Bannock County as opposed to a consultant's vision for Bannock County. And that's what you have before you.
And so just, I'm sure I'm answering my own question, but, so, it's a comprehensive plan of 2040. Is that at 2040, we're hoping to have all this implemented, or is this gonna take place and be in action by the time 40 hits?
This is a vision that is a potential by 2040.
2040, okay.
And we are, for all intents and purposes, a comprehensive plan is a fluid document and should be updated probably every 5 to 7 years. So you'll see these things taking place
Absolutely.
as we move towards 2040.
Just
with changes and updates.
everything changes, it's like Bannock County, that's 5 years.
Yeah, which it needs to. I mean, one big corporation decides to put a manufacturing facility in Pocatello, it changes this entire plan. When you add 600 jobs, you know what I mean? And ultimately, that would be the goal.
But in general, the comp plan is a 15 to 20 year look ahead that is constantly just moving forward as time moves on.
That's
correct?
correct.
Yep.
So that's why it's labeled Comprehensive Plan 2040, because it's a 15-year goal.
Working your way there, it's gonna, like you said, fluid, it's gonna change, it's gonna be lots of variables that come in, or,
And remember this, especially new council members, is that the comprehensive plan is dictated by state statute, but it is a guiding document for writing ordinance. Okay? Ordinance is the binding law. The comprehensive plan is a guiding document and it is not law. But we do make reference when you deliberate on whether or not something meets the merits of the ideas and the future plan. Okay? But when you do deliberate, you are deliberating against any exceptions that you want to make to law, which is the ordinance. Okay? Classic case in point tonight was we started to get off in some other weeds, and it's like, wait, pull back a little bit. What is the task at hand? Stay focused on the task at hand.
Property line. Yep.
And so it's easy to want to go down different paths, and I'm more than happy to suggest that you do, but yet in reality, if you want your meetings to be short, stay on task.
So I have a question, because in this document it's hard to read the map, so I appreciate the bigger copy, even with my glasses. But there's a couple areas that appear to be recreational, and will you tell me what they are? There's a little piece right here, south of Downey.
Downata?
That's down at.
That's Downey, okay, and then
And I think there's one near Pebble.
there's one, there's a little bit up there by Pebble. There's
Oh,
one
that's-
here.
Yes, that is.
Crystal Springs
Crystal
Campground.
Springs Campground.
That's Crystal Springs,
Yep.
okay. And then obviously everything around Wallow. Okay.
There's no recreation in Pocatello, so I'm upset about that.
And real quickly,
Yeah,
this
can we resume
second
my
page that
subdivision
you
as
see
recreational?
will not look like this. We've asked for professional graphics to
Yes, that was.
Little bit of
totally
I think it's great, I mean, I know what those are. And I'm glad that, I'm glad that, we could have gone down a little further south and got the teepees in there.
But all the pictures were submitted by the public.
These were?
They
That's
were,
great.
yeah, we did a social media campaign asking for any county photos for the comprehensive plan and
Two of
we
my
had
properties are in this
quite a few.
picture, so I don't mind that. I'm glad I cleaned those up.
And real quickly, for the public record, I would like to thank Tristan and Emma Iannacone, who is the public information officer to the commission, for having put together the format, the graphics, etc. They've done a fabulous job and cleaned up the language tremendously so that we have a clear direction moving forward. We go before the commission tomorrow in a work session, then we will be coming back to you for a formal public hearing. We will then go to commission for public hearing, and once this is adopted, that, cross our fingers, turns us loose for a rewrite of an ordinance starting at the first of the year. That's our goal.
Whoa.
Finally, which is gonna have to come to us.
We might have to have a party about that one now. So let me ask, and I'm not being critical, I'm just questioning,
Just
because,
being steward.
yeah, just be me.
I couldn't resist.
So, and I know there's nothing says how long this document has to be, but, and I looked at the current version a couple, after you sent this to me, because I was curious how much it differed, besides pages, because it is about 1/10 of the size. Is it so short just because there's so much fluff in the other one? And unneeded information or not, I won't say unrequired, just fluff. Maybe I'll just say there's too much fluff in that one, so you just cut it down to the bare bones, basically?
Yes and no. So one of the first things is in the current comprehensive plan, only about the first 46 pages are the actual plan. The rest of it is all of the data that JUB collected as part of the process. We've decided this time around, since we don't have to have all of that in there, it's available as public record for people who want to request that and read it, but it doesn't need to be in the actual document, making it appear to be way too much for people to read and consume.
Okay.
And then on top of that, one of the things we realized as we were going through this process is a lot of the goals really were more city-oriented goals and not necessarily county, and even less so South County. So we tried to create goals that were more attainable for actual county, that were more relatable to residents of the county and what they want to see for the future. And that's where we started condensing even the goals that are currently in there.
Okay, because I also noticed there's a lot of goals in here, but no policies, like the current plan. But then you get to, I think it's number 5. What number is it? 5 or
Yes,
6?
for strategies.
Strategies,
Mhm.
yeah. And are those intended to be more like the policies a little bit?
Yes, yeah, so in the current comprehensive plan, you have the overall goal, then you have objectives, then you have policies. Objectives and policies are essentially redundant to
Right.
the overall goal, right? So we just removed those completely. You're essentially stating the same thing in additional words to what the goal is supposed to be.
Okay.
And then your strategies are more, what are some very clear strategies that we could implement to help attain the goals?
Okay. So some of these I had questions on, and it might be addressed through ordinance, which I understand, but like, and this is actually a current goal in the current plan, but under chapter 3, goal 5, it says work with developers to ensure new developments cover the cost of the services they require. My question is, what does that mean, and how does that work?
So,
Because that is very broad.
which is the hard part about a comprehensive plan, because they're
Right.
all pretty broad. But to me, I would feel like, so when we were writing these goals, we tried to think, okay, what would an ordinance be that would help support this goal? So one of the things that we would consider is developers are putting in power. They're putting in a fire suppression tank. They're putting in all of those services, the roads, all of the things that are required in a subdivision so that it's not being passed on to a buyer.
Which we see a lot
So-
of hearings on. existing subdivisions that don't have those things, right?
Especially rural ones,
Yeah,
they
especially
gotta do their
rural.
own wells, their own septic tanks, and they've already bought the lot, it's all gone through, but it's a lot of cost.
So here's, cause I get what you're saying, but I think chapter 1, goal 6 is what you're talking about, where it's talking about improvements. Improvements to me are the roads, the, utilities, those kinds of things are the public improvements. Chapter 1, goal 6. The way I see services, and this is where maybe I'm reading into it too much. And I can see where potentially it can be taken too far. Services are schools, fire, emergency services, and fire meaning like fire district, fire department. So if a big development comes in, and maybe not big, decent sized development comes in, and the school district's like, well, we don't have the capacity for it. We need you, developer, to now pay for our increased capacity. To me, that's what that potentially could become if it's not written correctly. And that was my concern. Like, and that's my question. What does that mean? What services are you talking about? Or the fire district is like, well, we need a new fire station, so you have to build it for your development. And that's what's hard.
Not to interrupt you, Stuart, but I took it as a brief overview. Just like Hal said earlier, that it's a fluid document, and it's gonna change, but I feel like there's lots of ways to argue in there. I have a couple of them myself that it seems like that's just opening the Pandora's box for a great big argument. Private property is one of them. It's real brief, and there's big battles about how it's used and what your neighbors are doing, and I thought in here, but after reading it and going over it, it's really a brief overview. There may be some battles that have to be fought with ordinances or public hearings, or at least that's how I felt about it.
Right.
You know,
And I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, as the ordinance is rewritten, those things need to be taken into account so that they're very clear what services / improvements the developers have to pay for themselves and install versus what is potentially more of a community thing, like a new elementary school or in addition to an elementary school or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason I brought it up. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and also, this is kind of, will be at some point in one form, maybe some changes here and there and whatnot, but present it to the public, and then the public, this is a lot easier to read, just like you said, Tristan, than going through it. If it's someone that really wants to know about it, then they start finding policies, then it's all public information. Then let's find out ordinances, policies, and that would be that individual. And they can word it here, but then, the planning and development can say, well, we have this is what our policies and ordinances, this kind of adheres to it.
Right.
But it takes that person of the public to be, to take the initiative if they want to go farther.
Well, that's the hard part. The public isn't educated.
Is
I
there,
just said that on record, sorry.
is there something that you would like to add or subtract from that goal to help clarify it? Or?
The only thing, and I don't know if it's the right word on chapter 3, goal 5, is maybe saying that cover the cost of public services they require. Because then that, to me, public services, you could argue either way. You could argue it either way.
Yeah.
That my initial thought was public services like power, communication, those kind of public utility services was what I was thinking of. And if that's what your goal was, in the intent of that, then maybe that needs to be added to it, is the public utility services that they require.
Especially in South.
Would it correct it if you said subdivision services?
It's not necessarily necessarily just
Just
subdivision,
subdivision, okay.
No.
That's
Critical services.
critical services.
Critical,
Not striking costs with public utility.
what's that?
Would you striking costs out, like she said, the critical services, instead of the cost of services, but the critical services will require, or is it really cost a service?
Well, yeah, and it's hard because in the cities, this is where I have a hard time with this for the county, because I know in the cities, if you are bringing in a development and the city sees in the near future that they need to drill a new well to service your development and future growth, they'll require a certain percentage of that improvement be paid by that developer. That's where I have a hard time a little bit, because I understand it from the city standpoint a little bit, but it's a little bit harder from the county standpoint to say those kinds of things. And I don't know why, maybe it's just because it's not a municipal, you're not talking about incorporated areas
Right.
necessarily.
I think one thing that brought the question up was one of the subdivisions out in south, and they were gonna do a pretty good size subdivision, but if you have 5 miles of gravel road to get into this
Who's
big
paid?
subdivision, who's that utility or that service you're talking about, it's non-winter maintenance, tamed, it doesn't have a paved
Who's
road.
plowing the roads, who's grading
Who's
it?
doing all them services?
Right.
Well, and there is, I mean, it is worth considering, is there room in the schools? You already have issues in South County of whether schools can stay open. And if a developer does want to bring in something that's going to increase the number of students in the school,
Right.
can the county actually support that?
And that's the other hard part, right? Because as we go through the subdivision procedure, we request comments from the school districts and
And
never get
never.
anything back. So you never know until it's almost too late if that's even an issue, because the school districts don't respond to those initial requests, right? So anyways, it was just a couple thoughts that I had on those two items, because I think they're related. In chapter 3, goal 5, and chapter 1, whatever it was, goal 6. I think they're related, and I don't know how to fix them necessarily, but just a couple things that
Are you taking other comments during this session too? Because I just had a couple thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about it.
In chapter 2, there's a funky justification thing on that paragraph right below 2040.
like that big long word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just as someone seeing this for the first time, when I see this page, it says chapter 3, and it makes me think, well, where is chapter 3? This looks like a summary of chapter 3, so I wonder if we could maybe reconsider the word chapter, maybe section 3. You know, it's getting kind of picky, but just as my fresh eyes looking at it, I'm like, oh, well, where is chapter 3? Where can I read more about this? 'Cause it's
We'll
only
break
a
that out
page
as
long.
like a cover sheet.
Like my brain, it would make sense to use a different word other than chapter, since it's only one page, is what I'm saying, but it's kind of a picky comment, but just throwing it out there as a thought. But this looks really nice. And I like the condensed.
And I noticed, and I think, I assume this was your intent, that a lot of the goals are duplicated, because you agree with some of the existing goals, we just
Yes.
carried them over.
Correct.
It was, but then some were taken out and replaced with something else, or
Mhm.
rewritten or
Yes.
something. So,
Condensed to be more clear.
I like that word, by the way. It's fantastic.
You like the big long word, just keep it.
Stop.
it's
And
about
just put
substantial.
substantial.
Yeah, long word.
Sustainable, it's all one word, it's awesome.
Well, Tristan, I think you did a good job.
I do too.
And it is very, I like that it's condensed, I really do. Like I said, looking at the other one is so hard to find stuff and know.
We've had people in hearings quote the last one before too, it's like kind of lost, and we're like, what are you talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a lot, I think it's a lot better for that.
Cause I think that on the existing one, like the first 2 pages explain like what a comp plan is and why and how the public can read it, and it was, and maybe that's good stuff, cause
Came off condescending.
a little bit, yeah, but, and I don't know, maybe the intent was to be educational, but it did not read that way at all.
That's where Comeback takes the public to their own initiative to get a brief overlay. Well, they want more detail, it's available to get. Just like anybody else, I don't want to sit down and read ordinances or the law book or anything like that, you know? Unless they have to, but.
You don't? I love that stuff.
Can we get City of Chubbuck to annex this little section? Right
Go ahead
around,
and schedule that public hearing.
right around that Philbin area, prior to November.
I don't think you're gonna get that,
They don't want it,
especially so soon.
they don't want it.
Look at, which, this little,
Just
this little blue area right
Yeah,
there?
that little spot right here in there.
Just a little island of city.
Sure.
Maybe you put it on the agenda,
No, I,
pay the
I'm not kidding you,
$4,000
I've been
fee.
beat up over that one a dozen times. People come into my office and ask about it.
What's our, right of way?
She never does that.
All right. What else we got?
Yeah, for the public.
So, one other question on the map, and I know you got a lot of comment from South County, and I'm not, trying to, maybe, I don't know if belittle is the right word, but
I'm offended by your tone.
I'm just waiting to hear it. That's what I said.
Come on, let us have it.
I think I think there needs to be more opportunity for residential down there. Maybe not as much as what we had, but more than what is depicted.
So,
Especially around those, like, there's like hardly
Aramo?
anything around Aramo that really could be developed. And along that corridor, especially along the old highway, maybe not the interstate, but the old highway, a little bit more area there for residential development. That's just a thought.
That's fighting words, so.
Yeah, so I know the kickback on that initial one that came, it was all residential rural, and it was proposed 2.5 acre lots, okay,
Yep.
residential lots. That's what everybody did not like, myself included. But there is ways around that to do the residential. You can go for rezoning, you could go to the subdivision ordinances, even agricultural land. But just by rezoning it and saying these are 2.5 acre parcels right off the get-go, that's what everybody got, everybody up in arms down in South County. And so if you have a developer that's got 180 acres and he wants to do whatever, he has to come obviously to the staff, the planning and development, go through the proper.
Even bigger.
So the option is still there. It's just,
Right,
so all that ordinance is 2.5 acre lots is what.
Yeah, but again, this is not a zoning map, right? It's a
future land use.
map. And I don't know exactly what the current zoning map is, right, through that corridor.
It's about what it looks like
But,
on the proposed.
To take a parcel that's in the green and change this map to residential and change your zoning to residential is a huge process and potentially infeasible because of the location because you can't have spot zoning where this little 40 acre, 180 acre piece over here is residential rural, this one over here is residential suburban, and you know what I mean? And so I That's why I think just maybe a little bit of a buffer down that corridor that is residential, rural, or suburban, whichever one.
But so
That allows for
that's
some
the,
of that.
that's the county choosing how that land is zoned, and these farmers and ranchers have agricultural exemptions on their tax base, and they run these things, and all of a sudden the county says, well, now you're residential rural. Well, I just changed everything for them. And so,
Not with this map though,
it does.
because this is not a zoning map.
Well, it does, because I got some property up in Lava, and it's zoned recreational, and I get taxed the heck out of that versus my agricultural land down here. So somewhere it correlates.
From a zoning standpoint, yes, I can see that, but from a future land use map, it wouldn't affect your,
So maybe I'm missing the zoning and land use.
Yeah, so there are two maps.
Mhm.
There's the zoning map, which is attached to the zoning ordinance. And then there's the future land use map, which is attached to the comp plan.
Gotcha.
So the zoning ordinance is what it's currently zoned right now as it sits. The future land use map is what it could be with potential growth looking to 2040 into the future. So this is the current zoning map.
So they're really one of the same, it's just that's a future,
That's a
potential
future.
future, that's what it is. So it's
And
really
you
the
would-
same thing. So-
You would still
It
have to
could end up
rezone.
being, it could end up being the same thing,
And
yes.
it doesn't
Yes.
change the fact that the county has looked at that map and gone and tried to tax you according to the new use. This piece right here that I lease,
Mhm.
I had to sign a lease agreement and take it and give it to the owner of the land because they were trying to tax him on residential rural. And it had to basically be a document that I lease it to put animals out there for an agricultural purpose to keep it in the tax realm of agriculture.
For that ag exemption.
Yep.
Yeah, so on
So
a
it-
side note, the taxation is based on use.
Yep.
They don't tax based off of the zoning maps. So,
Yeah, I talked to the tax guy this year, so I kinda understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that one shows it a little better, and I know I can see how it correlates a little bit better to that now than that. So
And one
current
of-
zoning does show down that corridor from Aramo to Downey along the old highway as
Yep.
whatever it is, residential rural.
Residential rural.
And I guess I do see that here too, for the most part. Okay. I just wanted,
And
because
just-
going from that to this is like,
it's pretty drastic. So just so you know too, when we were in these open houses and talking to people, Elise was there for most of the time talking to people as they were putting pins. And she really did explain to them, you do realize that by going back to ag, you could not even subdivide for your children, for family, for anybody. And the consensus was, great, we don't want to.
really?
Until they die and their kids have to find it out. Yep.
Okay.
But that's, well, again, landowner rights.
So what are the pins?
So we asked whether they liked it or didn't like it. Blue is that they like it, red is that they don't like it.
And then the location that they, was applicable?
Yeah, so a lot of them are just approximate, like this general area, I like this general area. Some of them, they did do specific, I don't like where this specific parcel is zoned. But
And some of them, we would actually help them locate within
Where they-
reason where their current property was, so that they could place a blue pin or a red pin on their property.
Gotcha, okay. So what's the deal up in North County? What the crap?
They didn't show
All
up.
those red ones,
so this is,
northwest of Chubbuck.
I don't know, I don't
Nobody
remember
likes that
those
area
ones.
or what?
Those where they did not like as much growth as was taking place up there because of wildlife up the
That's
Pocatello
up,
Creek.
yeah, Buckskin.
Yeah, up there.
No, I'm
they
talking
wanted-
northwest of Chubbuck.
And then,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
there.
remember what those ones were.
Is it
Those were
the,
the people that disagreed with.
Economic
subdivisions that
disparagement.
occurred
Yes.
in that
Yep.
quadrant.
Yep.
Mhm.
oh,
Because that was a right after Mountain View
That's Mountain View
Estates and
Estates.
Luna Lane and,
Oh, yeah, okay,
Got a lot of opposition.
okay. That,
and a lot
That I-
of those were the old farmhouses that now all the development has occurred around them.
right. Okay. So, okay, that helps me correlate those two a lot better. Thank you.
So you said with ag, so they can't subdivide for their kids with it's ag.
It's one dwelling to 40 acres. So if they have 80 acres, they can have 2 dwellings and put them right next to each
There's
other.
exceptions to the rule though. There's gotta be, because
No, it's
I
not.
got
There's
a next,
not.
I got a next door neighbor, they have a 40-acre parcel and a brand new house they built 3 years ago. They're building another one right next to it. So there's gotta be exceptions.
So we do have farm labor dwellings where you can do an additional dwelling for your farm labor.
Maybe that's what they call it, but it's not a farm dwelling.
And then there's also,
It's for their parents.
then there's also a transfer
And it's
of
a monster
development
house.
rights. So if they transferred a development right in, they might have an additional development right available from somewhere else
That's right.
that they transferred in to be able to have the second
we-
So
dwelling.
you could
We've
take
seen
a
that.
development right from here that you're never ever gonna build on and transfer it to right here.
They didn't have that, they're from like Florida, they worked at Disney or something, so I was wondering how they got past that, because they have one 40-acre parcel, and they're building a great big old house, twice the size of the one they built 3 or 4 years ago. How'd they get it past the county? So there is a way to get through it, but they didn't have the development right, I know that, they're out of staters.
Farm dwelling unit.
Farm dwelling.
They can call it that, but it's not.
Or mother-in-law suite.
We don't do a lie
Mother-in-law's
detector
not
test on
allowed
everybody
in
that
ag.
comes
Okay,
in.
it's all sagebrush, they don't have any animals, they don't do anything like that, so.
So Chad, we're working towards a lot of those, I call them waste pieces, because the only thing that you can do is graze on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Bannock County and you look at our quote-unquote ag ground compared to all of the other counties around us,
Mm-hmm.
our pivots are probably maybe 20% of this county, if even that. And you go north, east, west, they're all over the place.
Yes, yeah.
Because of the lava rift and what we have
And
relative to
for
the
water
bottom of our
availability,
valley.
yeah.
And we're seriously looking at having the opportunity to take those 40-acre wastes, for lack of a better description, and looking at development opportunities to go to 410s.
Yeah,
Or
and
to
and I think we
220s.
talked about some of these open houses, it was the 2.5 acres that most of us in South County did not like. It was, and we were suggesting 5-acre parcels or go 10-acre parcels.
Well,
You
the
know,
one item
so-
that you have to remember is that those 2.5-acre parcels are done based upon a density, not on a minimum lot size.
Mhm.
So you're taking 40 acres and developing 20 of it and leaving half of it as open space.
Mhm.
So if you were to take the same number of lots and divide them, there would be 1 on 5
Yeah.
acres.
In comparison, it'll be a cluster of houses with a big open spot, that's what's going on. you know what I mean?
But
So-
something to remember, Chad, is that all gets dictated in the zoning ordinance,
Yes.
not the comprehensive plan.
But
So
they correlate
we get-
eventually, so,
They do, but
yeah.
as we rewrite the zoning ordinance after the comprehensive plan is done, that's when we have the ability to say agricultural zone now means this,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you have a density of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because this, other than the map, this document doesn't talk about,
It doesn't talk
These-
about
Talk about how-
density,
What
yeah.
those
well,
are.
it doesn't talk,
No.
it doesn't actually mention.
But the
any of
comprehensive
those.
plan will, as it goes forward and is fluid, just like Hal said, it will influence future ordinances, ordinance changes, and
Correct.
different policies. So they all correlate, it all comes together.
Correct.
It might take 50 years to do it, but it all comes
Right.
together, you know, so, yeah. Okay, thank you.
And one of the other items to remember, and we'll go down the path and you can stake me to the post, but part of my job title is Director of Economic Development. And if we aren't looking at how we manage and use our land as we have this influx, I don't think we're being responsible, shall we say, to the tax base. The current ordinance that we have from 97 and 98 is growth restrictive. End of discussion.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
There is nothing that is pro-growth about that ordinance. The only thing that's pro-growth is that there's so much contradiction and conflict that you can always find a path forward. If it says it in here, oh, look, it says this in the zoning ordinance, which isn't.
Mhm.
So that's what we're trying to,
I've gone through those and I'm still doing it. I'm like,
that's what we're trying to, that's what we're hoping to remove in the rewrite,
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
have two separate ordinances. We have a subdivision and we have a zoning, and we just want to have an ordinance that is clear and concise about, this is what you do in this zone, this is what you can't do in this zone, etc. Oh, if you need to subdivide, this is the subdivision process. End of discussion.
and you guys really are doing a good job. 10 years ago, I know we're on public here, but planning and development was a 4-letter word. And no one wanted to deal with nobody here. I mean, like, because it was just horrible. You couldn't do nothing. 6 weeks to get one little permit, like an excavation permit. Like, heck, when summer's gone. But it has gone better within the past 5 years, so I'll tell you guys that anyway, so.
Thank you. Anyway, that's the direction that we're going with the comprehensive plan. And we like the document to be honest, to be somewhat nebulous.
No.
We want that guiding direction, but we don't want absolute, because that's what the
For
absolute
sure,
is.
and growth,
Come in the form of
just like,
yours.
so with the influx, I'm all about the growth. It's, I think one of my concerns is cramming these clusters of houses all over the valley, but there's no jobs. It's just like there's that CUP for, right by Flags for that.
Yeah.
That would be great to get that. They bring that in, then watch, 5 years it'll be McDonald's and a Maverick right up the road, and that's how, you know what I mean, so.
And that
my
particular
vision.
corridor was studied very, very heavily as we went down this future land use
Yeah.
map. We changed a lot of things around the county area.
Yeah,
With residential uses around the perimeter edge, and then working towards some light industrial and industrial adjacent to the transfer station, and then more out, commercial general, etc., out towards Flags West and across, moving a little bit north. So,
yeah, the industry, it will come. It will come.
well, there are a couple of things that are in the stages, and hopefully they'll be able to negotiate within the next little bit something on that CUP. And then the other item is that there is a strong interest right now in the Virginia interchange. So,
Any other comp plan comments,
Sorry.
edits,
I took us down a rabbit hole.
concerns? No, you're good.
I'll share
Just
with,
thought I'd
Chad, I'll share with you,
Bring me
speaking
back.
of making these changes, when we moved into it, other people in the past have made some decisions, and we had one particular parcel at the Virginia interchange that had 3 zones on it.
Yeah, what do you do with that? Yeah, how do you?
So, yeah, there's a lot of things that we have to do.
When did McCammon grow their city limits? I mean, that's pretty proactive on McCammon's side.
Where it sneaks out and picks up the
Oh, yeah, it
truck
does
stop.
everything, yeah.
We would like them to take the corridor and go to the north side. And
Yeah, it's
go
all
the way
south
down.
side, but I mean, that's
The
pretty
railroad tracks.
proactive on the city of McCammon's part to,
Yes.
instead of fighting the impact zone stuff like we see with a lot of the lava area, that they just
I don't know when
incorporated, that
that,
they
but
can
I'm
dictate it.
I'm assuming they probably did that when the
Jay went in.
potential proposal came and they abandoned the old truck stop and built the new one
Yeah.
directly west. I'm
I'm just curious, cause I mean,
They went aggressive.
that is aggressive, but it saves them from having to fight it.
And there's some potential, growth in the McCammon area with a couple of developers that are looking to, they see the restrictions in income.
Yep.
Because of where income sits, the
Yep.
majority of it's in the floodplain,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. And McCammon is now looking to become a bedroom community to Pocatello.
Yep.
McCammon's growing immensely with what's going on, a lot of kids in school.
And they have, right now, I believe, for the most part, McCammon has some very good leadership in place in their planning and in their city council and in their mayor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Well, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of work on that.
Don't hit stop yet.
Listen to Stuart, dude, gavel in his hand, man.
Just echoes so bad on the plastic steel.